Welcome again to another episode of our Konglish podcast. I am your introducer and autistic smile for the day, DK, and I'm also joined again with my host, with the host of the podcast, Alex. Say hi.
Yeah, what's up? Hi.
Hey, so
What's up?
so please forgive the autistic smile. I am in a bit of a hippie mood lately, and I thought I'd just share the joy. If it traumatizes or scares or makes people cry of laughter, all the better for me.
Yeah, great. With these gentle words, let's get started.
Aye,
Okay,
aye.
so the topic for today is learning languages, and more specifically, learning Korean or learning English as a Korean or foreigner, depending on who you are and which language you want to learn.
Excellent.
And then, since both of us, you speak English, right? Yeah?
I do.
Really?
I'm not sure.
No shit. Yeah, that's what I thought. You don't speak English, right?
No.
So no, since both of us kind of speak English and kind of speak Korean, I thought maybe we're the well suited or reasonably.
Oh, we're not reasonably qualified at all.
Yeah.
We're just stating what it took for us to reach our levels of speaking in
Right.
either language.
Although our language proficiency is not perfect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll dare to give our opinion to this topic today. Okay. And then as far as I know, you work in the English Hub one, right?
Yes, I do.
And then so do I. So I think also we have some unique perspective also as a teacher a little bit maybe on what Koreans usually struggle with when learning English.
In my case, my Hagwon's approach to English is a little different from the norm. Mostly, it's really just injection kind of thing. You read this, you study this, you memorize this. I'm pretty sure most of our viewers can sympathize learning English this way, since Koreans have a strange obsession with learning things their way instead of the way it's meant to be learned. Hence the Korean curriculum. But the Hagwon I go to enforces a more freeform style. It's a library. It's built in a library-esque way where students take books, read them, study them, and then they test their understanding by coming to us and going through vocabulary tests, book reading, book writing, things like that, which are not monitored by us, but for them,
Yeah.
but mostly by their efforts, so they can improve by their own.
I see. I always thought that Koreans learn English like they're trying to understand math or like they're learning to do
Precisely.
Cool.
That's how they learn.
and that's how they approach learning English. I would say that doesn't really work that way, and it's also
Makes-
not an effective approach. But then also you said the Hagwon you're teaching at is not like the conventional Korean
True. Yes.
studying method, but still somewhat kind of sounds like that.
Yeah, I suppose there is.
Yeah, what would you say is the biggest issue with that, or why doesn't it really help with learning a language? Why do Koreans struggle still speaking fluently or?
Well, starting off, like you said, it's almost like a black and white thing. If they're taking the approach to studying language much as one would try to memorize equations and
Yeah.
stuff, they believe certain sentences are constructed this way, and this applies to many other things. While a sound logic, English language more than most other languages is very free form. There may be there are of course set laws, syntaxes, and also inherent, of course. What's the term?
Rules and
Yeah.
points you should consider when speaking, writing.
There are specific linguistic systems and terms for the English language, of course. But if you listen to the average American or English conversation, most of the conventions are very loose.
Yeah, no, first of all, even native speakers get most of many things wrong. So one thing, for example, is like this: if I were you, if I was you.
There's
Right?
also
So like that,
there's
you know?
also
And it's technically, I think I were you was wrong. If I
Yeah.
were you is wrong, but still, though, so many people use it that way, so that it ends up being actually right. I almost would say, even though by the grammar it would be wrong.
they also some new words are added to the dictionary every couple or so times. The
Yeah.
word yeet was also added to the dictionary.
Exactly. That's
lately.
my point. A lot of time when it comes to language learning is that a language is not like math or physics. That's like a set of rules that displays laws of nature or physics. Just like humans over time, what we do, our lives, social structures, politics, the language changes and adjusts to these changes.
On a side note, those who are taking applied linguistics, be wary. This is not a lesson. This is just us expressing our thoughts.
Yeah, I
This
mean-
is not a lesson.
I study economics and not what was it? English literature. So,
Yay.
I'm.
I guess that does track. Moving on though.
No. Anyways, the point I was trying to make is when a lot of Koreans say stuff like, "What is the perfect expression? I want to make a perfect sentence." Where I would argue there's no such thing almost as a perfect sentence.
No, there is not.
No, definitely there's not. Especially not in the English language where even native speakers make all kinds of mistakes. all the time.
Yeah.
And then there's people like me and you who learned also like English basically as a second language, more or less.
First, it was first language for a good part, and then eventually became pseudo second first language.
Yeah, but like you
One
know,
or two.
like we didn't grow up in native English speaking country,
No, we did not.
and both our parents don't speak English either.
Nope.
Right. So, yeah, for us very like also different. Like we had to learn it, but there's not just like there's many people like us who are not native speakers who also like use the English language and they don't use these native expressions or native whatever. But nevertheless, I would say their English is like perfectly fine and fluent. You know, even though it's not like perfect by the like Korean standard. And I think that's also kind of the flaw. Like,
that perfectionism, of course, is always a flaw. If there, like you just said, there is no perfect expression. There is only one's own way of expression.
right. Exactly.
But given that most Koreans are, of course, well, no offense, as I'm also Korean myself, dead as a doorknob when it comes to expressions. Don't lie. It kind of makes us all seem monotone to a certain. Almost makes a majority of us Korean speaking English kind of a monotone sort of thing. Wouldn't you say?
No, like even though Koreans always try to pursue this like perfect American English like style of English.
Yeah.
I rarely meet Koreans who actually speak like that. So I wouldn't say that they all sound like that because like in the end they all sound very differently. Like they all have their different like struggles. Some people struggle more with the vocabulary. Some people struggle more with the sentence structure and the like the grammar.
And some people just can't pronounce certain words.
Yeah, like the classics are like walk and
Squirrel.
work.
And they can't also pronounce some animal words like squirrel.
Yes, that I get. It's kind of difficult.
Yeah, bit of a
Squirrel,
difficult.
and then there's like the e's t-shirts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like my name is like Alex.
Yeah.
But in Korean I'm never Alex. I'm Alexa. So there's always the additional e.
They're trying to there's another little flaw. They're trying to use Korean conventional pronunciation to English language. Like basically like you just said. Normally it's Alex, but how did you just say your own name?
Alexa.
Yeah, just like that. They're trying to apply English. They're trying to apply Korean pronunciation and also pronunciation to the English language,
Yeah.
which kind of works out sometimes,
No,
but
no,
not all the
But
time.
like the issue is a lot of like it's just also the nature of the languages are very different. So like the reason why they put the or e
Yeah.
is because in the Korean language there's a lot of vowels. There's always in every syllable there's a vowel, whereas in English a lot of times you have 3, 4 like consonants in a row, which is like But then for Koreans that's very difficult to pronounce, and then they just by like automatically add a like extra vowel, like especially the e at the end. I think that's what it is. And then also they have like like stuff like coffee, like the F doesn't exist in the Korean alphabet, really.
Yeah.
Or also they don't really distinguish between R and L. They have only the lien, so that's
Yeah,
why
that's
stuff
true.
like walk, work sounds the same. A lot of times I'm kind of confused, and like 2 sentences later, she meant to say walk or work, not the other one, And so yeah, but exactly, and then these are like small differences in like the nature of the language, the alphabet, that cause these issues. Yeah, but no, it's just like not just in like English like this, but I think I told you the story. But my mom, when she learned German, in the German alphabet we have the letter W.
Yeah.
Which we pronounce like would be the V in the English alphabet.
Yes.
And they don't have that in Korean. So and then that's why she replaces every sound with the B with a B sound.
Oh.
B, b, b. So in German we have 2 words. One is Wecker, which means like alarm, like the alarm that wakes you up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And the second word is Bäcker, which means baker.
Oh, okay.
And because baker and Wecker are basically the same, just the beginning letters, V and B are like, the difference. But for my mom, in the pronunciation there was no difference. Like, it was both Bäcker. So I thought, until I was 12, I thought the baker and the alarm, the Wecker, that wakes you up in the morning, would be like, has the same term to express it, So I thought both of them were Bäcker.
This is the bakery must have been fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was confusing for me. And then, so, no, but stuff like this happens, and, I'm not like hating or criticizing or anything like that, but, if you, like, learn these languages, these are things you have to consider, alright?
For me though, personally, my education was a little lopsided in the fact that I learned English for the majority of the time where Korean would have been ingrained into me. And, well, there's also the fact that I watched a lot of movies, like American,
Yeah.
English movies.
Yeah.
I discovered Transformers that way.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, Baber's Prime, absolute war criminal. Though Peter Cullen was also a good guy. And I also read a lot of books in a lot of books. I read them aloud in English. English books.
Alright.
I read them aloud often and often trying to emulate the voices of those cool voices I heard on movies and
I
television.
can see that. I
Yeah,
can see
a
that.
lot. I'm not sure if this contributed to the voice I have now, as complimentary as a lot of people have told me. But yeah,
I think it did
thank you so much.
for sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Moving on though, that's how I learned English for a majority of the time. But because I tried to read it and emulate those those voices I heard on
Yeah.
in the movies, it also evolved. It also resulted in me having a speaking method that is not conventionally Korean at all. You can hear me speak right now, and you would barely think I was actually like Korean in any way. You think I was You think I was born in somewhere like the USA, when I have not in my life set foot on sovereign U.S. soil. I keep saying this every time, but nobody believes me. For me, since everything came a little naturally to me, I guess this
Yeah.
sounds like this might be boasting, so just bear with it. So it came to me a little naturally at the time. So a lot of the English convections, pronunciations,
Yeah.
and a lot of
Yeah.
linguistic terms I took for granted. When I tried to learn Korean, starting from middle school onward, that's where everything was a little funky, and I guess title drop. Konglish began used a lot of Konglish in a lot of my speech. It's basically a hybrid mix of Korean and English that
Yeah.
basically sounds bad and it's also linguistically as wrong, I suppose.
I see. But would you say so? Like you having learned English primarily when you were younger,
Yeah.
and then later transitioning into learning Korean. Like, would you say like having learned English first like made it more difficult for you? Like your brain was like tuned on English, and that's why you had a hard time learning Korean.
When puberty hit, I had an especially bad identity crisis thanks to that. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, to put a very long, hormonal, and very embarrassing story short, I eventually just settled on let's just learn Korean.
Yeah.
Let's just learn Korean as best I can. And then, skip forward, I came to Korea for the first time, went through the army, and then actually got a decent sense of what the Korean language is supposed to
Yeah.
look like. And now here I am.
Yeah, but this is actually like an interesting question.
Yeah.
Because for me, language never interfered with my personality or my correct character or my emotions. Like for me, like language was really just a means or a tool of expressing myself. So
Yeah.
like regardless of which language I spoke, like my thoughts and my character would remain the same. I just blur the same nonsense out as always. But the language of course changes, and then there's slight adjustments, you know. But yeah, like how what would you say was the reason that it, like like the language transition also seemed to interfere with your like personality, character, or like emotions?
This is a decade-old story, so I can't exactly recall all the details.
Yeah, it's just what you can
But
remember.
what I can remember though is, I do remember I really loved to study English. Just learning the language and using it in general.
Yeah.
That brought a lot of stuff to my life. But then we had to transfer to an action. Then once my primary school years were over, when we transferred to secondary school, I did the sudden transition to learning Korean, which is it's not the hardest language to learn, but it does
Yeah.
have quirks of its own that made me struggle a lot. So that made me double down on my English thing because
Yeah.
that was a language I could understand.
Yeah.
Because I think back then I had a bit of an inherent dislike of things I didn't understand back then. So I like
Yeah.
this like so I like stuff that I could like digest on my own pace and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But because I was also like I was wanted to please my parents and stuff, I was pulled in a lot of directions, and eventually me being good at English eventually became a bit of a lifeline, I suppose.
No, for sure, definitely. I would say that's the most frustrating part of language learning is the like frustration that you experience when you cannot like
Rasp-
engage
Yeah.
in the natural way you usually would because of the language barrier. But yeah, I see. Yeah. So then, like, what would you say is the like recipe or the like blueprint for like overcoming these kind of issues? And like,
There's no unified blueprint for any of these struggles. Very best advice I can give for anyone who might be going through similar struggles: take heart, laugh it off.
yeah, no, I think that's like if I had to like sum it up in one word, it would be pragmatism.
Yeah.
Just like be honest about it, be real about it, and then laugh about it, and then just take your time. It sounds silly, but don't give up.
Yeah, that's true.
Because like learning a language in its entire like broadness and depth really takes years. But And most people want to do it like this super fast, and then you can kind of get it done like that, but it's very superficial. And then to understand, like learning a language for me always wasn't just about like learning a language, but also like getting like understanding of the people who speak it, like the country, the history, the politics, the geography. Like all these things are more, in my experience, oftentimes reflected in the language.
That's right.
Yeah. So and then yeah, I found this to be very true. So exactly. Yeah, maybe like let's transition into how you can effectively learn languages. Okay.
Well, it's first off having an interest in it is always the most important thing. You gotta want to learn the language,
Yeah.
and you gotta express an interest in everything related to the language.
Right.
Methinks.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like you need some sort of actual motivation. If you say like, there's a lot of people who say, yeah, I'm learning French or I'm learning Spanish or, I think I'm thinking about starting to learn. And then
That's not how that works.
it's like New Year's you said, oh, I'm gonna lose weight or I'm gonna go to the gym now on a regular basis. It's same concept.
Yeah,
It
basically.
will last for a month.
Very,
at
very
best.
skin deep. Yeah, very
Right, so
shallow.
no, exactly. Like the first thing, actual good reason, motivation, drive, passion, or
Yeah.
something, to learn English, and then yeah, typically I would say it's like going abroad, living abroad is like the real only reason.
But you figure me with my abroad experience, I'd be using Vietnamese a lot more.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of international schools in Vietnam. Even now, there's a lot of schools like that, and I learned my English in one of those schools. Well, it wasn't well known, but it was a nice little like state. You could say
Yeah.
homeside kind of elementary school. That's where I learned most of my English.
Yeah, no, but it's like also I would say one of the main issues with people who even go abroad, but they still don't manage to learn the native language because they stay in the bubble or their comfort zone. So
Yeah, I stayed in my comfort zone.
yeah, a lot of times I see this though. Like people go to learn English to the US or UK, and then it's just group of foreigners hanging out and literally no like native speaker or no like local person. And then same thing in Germany, like like there's like like for example, like a group of Indian people hanging out, and they all speaking like, I think what do they speak? They're
Yeah, Hindu. Well, wait, Hindu's the
Yeah.
religion. I'm sorry.
I forgot the language. I forgot. But anyways, they speak their language. Or Koreans always also walk around in groups in like Germany, and they speak Korean. So it's like stepping out the comfort zone. Even if you are like in a native speaker country, is really like, difficult.
It's not like they're gonna snap back at you. I don't know about Germany though. You've shown me plenty of times how free speaking you can be. I know you mean no offense by it, but you're very honest.
Yeah, no, yeah. This is German like unique characteristic, honesty. But then yeah, it's a different topic. We can speak about these cultural differences, but no, like yeah, I find Germans very honest, but at the same time like constructive. So
That's true.
you
Just
know.
gotta suck it up, I guess.
No, whereas if you go to the United States and your English sucks, you're like, oh no man, it's great, wonderful. I can see you trying. And you actually, yeah. When I went to the U.S., at first I believed everything they like said, being like a German. But then over time I realized they only mean half of what they say. Whereas
Yeah.
Germans don't say much, but they mean everything they say.
That's true. That's a good society to be, I guess. Honesty is best policy.
Yeah. Anyway, so then motivation, going abroad, but then also going outside the comfort zone. Like these are things to consider. But like, what are some things like specific things you can do like right now?
Specific things.
Right now, like
specific
like,
things.
instantly for yourself to study like language.
Well, if you're gonna study by yourself, I do recommend like a lot of audio recordings.
or like listening or speaking.
Listening, and speaking either through a mirror or or just reading aloud a book. That's how I learned.
Reading out loud.
Yeah, reading out loud. Like I said, I used to do that a lot, even young.
Like, I never did it in that way. Like,
Well, I was always like for me I like to do it because I was really in love with how a lot of the
Yeah.
voices came out, a lot of the movies I watched. Like I said, number one, Peter Cullen, wonderful voice, especially at the time.
Yes.
Very deep, very deep, very I guess sagely in an aspect, and also very wise sounding. I wanted to sound like that one day.
or that was your goal, like actually.
I guess that you could call that one of my goals at the time. I wanted to possess a voice kind of like that, very deep, very wise sounding, and so I read a lot of books aloud and tried to emulate the voice. I'm not sure how it's turning out now,
And
but
congratulations, you got there.
I'm not sure it's that deep though. You don't see me going to all or one or something like that, do I?
Yeah, no.
But yeah, reading out loud for me personally, that's the approach I would take. Reading aloud a book.
No, like this is maybe a bit strange, but for me it was, I want to say maybe similar. And my interest, I was never interested in like reading books or like emulating like speakers, but I always was more interested in like politics or like news, so I watch like American news.
Oh yeah.
But then I was like mumbling and discussing these topics like within like with myself in my head, pro and con.
Inner monologues
But
are always fun.
right, but then I speak out loud while doing
I
in my room in front of it like
You're
computer or
not.
TV.
Please, you're not among strangers here.
Yeah, no, of course.
I speak aloud even in public. So, but even then, it might be at a low tone, but I still have monologues in public.
Yeah.
So I do get a couple stares every now and again.
Yeah, you should see me in the gym. like I do the lifting, then I walk in circles, like talk to myself, and then continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing.
Big birth.
But,
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So but I think this leads like to the next point. Like so listening or like some sort of like receptive skill, like listening, reading, and then repeating just blankly like what you heard or read.
That's also an option.
Okay. But then we already kind of like unconsciously mentioned the next point, which would be consistency maybe.
Yeah.
You have to do everything, whatever you do, especially like.
But you have to have the discipline to keep doing it. It's kind of like exercise in a way.
Yeah, but exactly, like it requires discipline. But then if you're motivated, and also when I listen to you, and also from my own personal experience, like it never required a lot of discipline, just simply because of intrinsic interest.
Yeah, that's true.
So you were like trying to emulate like.
Yeah, I had
Optimus Prime.
Yeah, that's true.
And I was trying to like understand American politics, and so. Yeah, like not like again, this is like language as a tool, not as a like the actual goal again. So so if the motivation is like set well, then I think discipline isn't an issue. But of course, there's days where you don't give a shit about it, or you don't want to do it.
But yeah, discipline I think is like it's the one thing that actually like sets it above motivation in certain aspects. This comes out the most during exercise, since you're basically doing something you don't want to do, but you gotta do it. But I think discipline is also a big factor when you're trying to actually learn the language. It might be as simple as memorizing 10 words a day or something, but it all accumulates into something, and eventually you might be speaking, I don't know, some vague form of Swahili, like as proficiently as a native would. Right. So yeah, discipline I think is gonna be like will be one of, if not the core points of learning a language.
But then again, I think you can combine it with like something you like. So
precisely, that's like a nice little bonus on top.
Like like also especially a method to avoid this like frustration of not understanding something.
Having friends to do it for you. That's one thing.
Yeah, I mean that, but also like what I usually recommend is listening to like YouTube videos about topics that you're interested. So
yeah.
For example, like weightlifting. I always was a lot into sports, and then. When I got interested in that, like, there was not much of like contents or like people or experts explaining this in German. So inevitably, I only resorted to English sources or YouTubers or athletes, and exactly. But then, even though you don't understand the language, just from the nature of the content and what they're describing and the concepts, you can more or less understand. And then while doing so, you like learn also the language.
Well, there's also if one's interested in not just in that, but more interested in celebrity stuff, they could also just watch like interviews of celebrities.
Exactly, like whatever you're interested in. Like for me, it was sports. That's the example I was giving. But if you're into makeup, do makeup. If you're into celebrities, do make celebrities. Yeah. Whatever you're into.
You could just watch videos of their interviews about what they do in their daily lives and answering social questions like how Nordic they are, stuff like that.
Yeah. Anything, whatever works for you. Right. But this is like the receptive skills. So reading, listening. Then what would you say is the best like way to actually like practice it in like so producing speech or text, like what would you say is the best?
Make friends. Language exchanges.
Oh really?
Yeah, for sure. Really? Speaking as someone who's actually acted as a mediator between people during language exchanges. This was also a few years ago. I'm not doing anything special right now, but I was doing some stuff. There was a small anime cafe in Sandoyok, I believe. It's barely a couple blocks from CAU. It's closed now because the owner got married and went on to France.
Yeah, that shit happens.
Yeah, it happens.
Leading to the next point of learning languages, dating, and marriage. Yeah.
Oh hey.
Yeah, but finish your point.
There was a language exchange. The owner of the cafe, she held a language exchange with one of her friends every twice or so every month. I was always invited as a translator to help other people get used to the language and help them practice. Many of the Koreans who participated had good academic scores, but their methods of speaking at first were always a little, I'd say rough, for the lack of a better term.
Yeah.
They knew what we were talking about. Sure, they listened well enough, but they had a bit of trouble expressing their own opinions themselves in a way that was clearly not trying to that clearly didn't show them working the gears in their head.
Yeah. No,
But the more I helped them, the more they were able to naturally string along sentences along. And what I believe that really helps is natural. That what makes it natural
yeah.
helps help them ease into something more natural speaking, so to speak.
Yes, I would say that's a prototypical like issue of Koreans. Like the reading and the understanding is fine, just the speaking
Yeah,
doesn't work. And then
we're also most of us withdrawn to a fault.
yeah, no. Anyways, we already mentioned like another like very useful
Yeah,
or like for me it has proven very effective.
Yeah.
Method of actual like applied language learning, which is dating.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you date like.
yes, you're hammering my single status. Why don't you?
No, no,
In-
no,
in ca-
I wasn't. I wasn't.
In case none of you did not tune into some of our earliest episodes, I did not. It was a recurring joke during one of our podcasts. Please check it out.
Yeah, Montessori.
Yes, goddamn. Yes, damn it all.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter. But like in my experience, like dating helps a lot when learning language because you really like in all depth you get to learn the language, and then
Yeah.
you always have someone you can ask about. Oh, what does this mean? What does that mean? And then also when you do really bad mistakes, they correct you instantly. It's like, and
That helps divert a major fox pass. You know what I'm talking about.
right. So yeah, there's these things, and then language exchange you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then what else is there? Like
Well, the only thing I've only actually actively participated in was language exchanges. But if push comes to shove, one could just share a class with other international students,
Yeah.
especially if you're a college student yourself.
yeah, that don't like this is what the last point I wanted to add is like joining some sort of clubs or language whatever it is. Like for me it was jujitsu. So when I came to Korea, I started doing sports instantly. And I didn't speak much Korean at that time, but then just going there, having to listen to instructions, like technique instructions in Korean, and also, of course, then I also would interact with like other people, and they're all Koreans, and in that gym, nobody spoke any English, like zero. So I was forced to learn Korean, and then I picked up relatively fast, I would say, and then not just the language itself, but also like the like culture
Mm.
and honorifics. In the beginning was very difficult for me. So when I first joined the gym, I was to my 관장님. I said like, 아니 왜? I said no, why? But in Korea, like you have to if you speak to superiors or like seniors.
There's always honorifics.
Right, and I just absolutely disregarded all of it. And yeah, the funny thing is, like if you do that as a foreigner in Korea, like none of them are gonna get mad at you because they're instantly gonna realize you're a foreigner, and they'll be like more than offended. They're like fascinated that a foreigner just spoke to them and just absolutely destroyed all like the Korean social norms. But
Yeah. But if you're actually Korean and you
Yeah.
bound to have some knowledge and you address them like that, oh goodbye.
yeah, you might end up in a fist fight. But
One or two, maybe three.
right. Anyway, so yeah, like this is the last point I would add. Just immerse yourself in whatever hobby like you want to pursue, and then go into that field or like meet people and try to avoid these bubbles we mentioned previously. So don't hang around with just people who speak your language. Also, it's like
Take a leap of faith. It never hurts.
it hurts, but that's,
Maybe sometimes depends on where you are.
right. It's not easy, but then like in the end, it's really worth it in my experience. And then also you don't always have a choice. Where I went, there was no English-speaking person, so.
Amen to that.
Right. Okay. So this is like I would say very like methods we discussed so far. I would say like apply more to people who are very like maybe like creative or like they do learning by doing.
Yeah.
But in Korea I would say most people they are very like structured. So like I said,
Academic, more like.
yeah, right. Exactly. They approach learning language like it's math, and then you have grammar patterns and key words and vocabulary, and and then. Like to some extent, I think it's useful, but after a certain point, it doesn't make sense anymore. But what do you think about it, like grammar patterns and expressions?
That I personally don't have a problem with how Koreans handle their English education, but I guess the one thing I would have issue with is how it handles the education itself, how it delivers its lessons, rather than actually using the tried and true English American curriculum, which does a good job on its own. They're using their own curriculum to explain English, which kind of muddles it up a lot. So they're trying to define the English language through their own through Korea's own linguistic system, which is while it's not exactly well, I don't know, rocket science.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science, but it still has a few parts of its own that can't that the English language does not can't fall into correctly.
Yeah.
And in an attempt to find a middle ground, they tried. It becomes a bit of a mess.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know, like
The,
because my understanding of Korean language and the Korean education is not deep enough to judge about it in that level, but
it
yeah,
is there as someone who's actually like learned English from both sides of the spectrum. One from an American English curriculum and from how the Koreans do it.
yeah,
They like I said they try to use their system of language and apply it and try to teach English through it,
yes,
which like I said has some complications, and it also introduce and because they're doing it because they're teaching English through the Korean language,
right,
they're using the Korean linguistic system. They they are also they're also classified unnecessarily. I would say this is not a defined opinion. This is but they are unnecessarily categorizing a lot
yeah.
of words into areas that are normally just better as they are.
But this is like a Korean thing in general. Like
That's
it's
true.
a Korean like mindset that applies to everything, like also language. But you know, they like their entire education system is built on ranking and
Not
grading.
not to mention it's worked out very well for them so far. To be honest,
Yeah, I mean depends how you view it. I mean,
that
but
yeah.
but then exactly they have that, and then yeah, I this is my personal opinion, but I like it's like a cultural thing. This like need for neatness and orderliness, like
And national pride.
yeah, I don't know, like I never thought about
Yeah,
national pride.
I just threw that out there.
No, but like this, like for example, if you look at like European or American sports, it's like wrestling, boxing,
Rugby.
these kind of things. There's no such thing as belts or levels or classes.
Yeah.
Also, if you look at European or like American architecture, it's relatively messy, I would say, and like But if you look at Asian culture, not just now, but also like 5,000 years ago, like Taekwondo, karate, kung fu is like always based on some sort of like ranking, belts, structures,
Hierarchy,
uniforms,
I guess.
right? And then also the architecture, like Korean temples, like they're all very like uniform. They all look the same relatively. Where you go, like
They share a basic structure and also sometimes basic social hierarchy.
right. And then also like if you look at the painting or art in Korea, it's always very like minimalistic, and there's no like overlapping colors. Like for example.
Nothing dramatized either.
No, but like it's very neat. There's
Yeah.
clear lines, clear colors. Everything is separated and has its own space. Whereas in Europe, everything is just smashed onto one like picture, and colors overlap, and it's like this a bit more abstract and like creative ways. And like I can kind of see this like
It's almost like they're trying to visually induce you into a bit of a trip.
yeah.
Sometimes.
Okay, so anyways, this is like a short excursion into our like what I realized, what you realized over time, but. No, I on this spirit that I just described, reflecting in architecture and art and sports, also in my opinion reflects in the way Koreans approach language. But yeah, this is a different topic. Um, yeah. So right. Where okay. So we talked about like Koreans trying to learn or learning English. So how about we turn it around, and then now we speak about foreigners trying to learn Korean, and then I think I could tell you a lot about that and the struggles.
Please do. As I am, of course, natural born. I might have had my own unique experiences, but it doesn't
Yeah.
change the fact I was a born and bred Korean, and so I can't exactly relate to a lot of the foreigners out there who are learning Korean at the moment. So
Yeah. No, like for me as a German, learning English isn't like I wouldn't say it's easy, but you can do it. It's like you're not starting at zero. You're starting at 10, 20%, somewhere in between. Because many words are same. So in Germany we say Gras, which means grass. Slight change in pronunciation, but then but and also of course there's a lot of differences, but nevertheless there's a lot of commonalities, and it's relatively easy to transition from German to English. But when I learned Korean, that was like okay. So my mom is Korean, but I never really spoke a lot of Korean at home. Mostly was like mixture of German and English, and then Korean. I saw Korean before. I knew partially the alphabet, but I never really learned it. And then so I came to Korea, and then I also didn't know the honorifics, so the different endings of the sentences. And then the biggest issue, of course, was vocabulary.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea what like. And like I said, in German and English, like a lot of words overlap or have the same origin, so you can just like reconstruct.
in Korea, we also like to use characters that make everybody a little more frustrated when trying to learn them.
Yeah, but like you referring to Chinese characters?
Yes.
But this is actually one point I want to like yeah like make is that um like although like Korean language is very hard to learn for a Westerner, like these kind of things like Chinese characters are very like useful when learning vocabulary, especially because it is difficult to just like throw and memorize vocabulary into your brain and download it. But if you learn it in some sort of connection or context or in like some sort of system,
That's true.
then it's easier to memorize. And then now also we have the same concept more or less in Western languages. I would say like Spanish, English, German, like these languages. They have the same thing, like a certain like set of prefixes and suffixes. So like this, t, an, anti, like these kind of things.
Yeah.
And then endings like tion, like definition, determination, like So you always know it's a noun. And then similar, like these things kind of similarly exist in the Korean language. So bul, bi,
Yeah, that's true.
these kind of things. So that
I see what you mean.
yeah, exactly. So taking the systematic approach and breaking down the language was like really helpful. And also the Chinese characters, like what I always use as an example is like 국회, like national parliament.
Oh yeah, 국회의원.
국회의원, right? 국 is like nation. 회 is like some sort of like meeting.
Yeah.
And
then 의원, which is basically member.
Yeah, right. But then I was just referring to 국회, like the parliament.
Yeah.
And then right, and then you can use this so like 국가, which means nation. You have the same 국, and then on the 해, 해 like 회식, like which is like company meeting.
Oh, I think actually.
Is it different?
회식 is you were looking for 회의.
회의 or
yeah, 회의. 회식 is after work meeting, after work gathering for food.
No, regardless of what it means, like the 회 is the same, or 대회 like competition,
or just 회 for seafood.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I think that doesn't go in the category. But it means basically some sort of meaning. You find it in the words like of National Assembly, dinner, meeting,
Congress.
and competition. So there's always some sort of meaning, and taking that approach for me was very useful, especially learning the vocabulary, having
knowing categorizing what each select group of words can mean can also help a lot in things.
So that is that, and then grammar. I totally say I haven't really figured it out yet. I just literally speak how I remember or heard it. And I just give it back in that way, and then start combining it, and then by the expression of other people's faces, I adjust and see if what I was saying is wrong, made sense or not, and adjust accordingly. But
that's a good learning method as any, I believe.
Yeah, again, but then this is very like I would say messy. It's like learning by doing, and
that's how I learned.
Yeah, true, and then but were there like you described your what was it, like personality conflict or like identity conflict when you
identity crisis?
So like what struggles did you have when you were learning Korean?
Struggles I had learning Korean. Well, number one, just like your grammar. Number two, honorifics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I often added the wrong honorific at times, and also another major part of my little crisis thing while learning Korean was how social norms of Korea worked, how they handled their social links in society things, and I was a very earnest person, even very young. I always like you. I took everything literally.
Yeah.
So some of the terms when I did not fully understand, I often thought they meant bad. So there's a term regarding parents and like if they're your actual parents or not. Of course, in Korean we naturally refer to them as 부모님 and stuff like that. But there's also adopted stuff and also people we kind of consider parents, and so there's a distinct difference.
Yeah.
So we tend to make that difference distinct by adding 친 to the front. So 친부모, 친엄마, 친아빠. I did not know what that was at the time, and I thought the guy was insulting me because he insulting me for being adopted and stuff. So I punched the guy in the face. Yeah, so stuff like that. There's a lot of incidents with my learning Korean that contributed to my whole identity crisis thing.
Okay. Yeah, maybe at that age, learning Korean is a bit different.
I was already excuse me. I was already consolidated with English. Yeah. Sure, fair enough. No excuse. Let's go with that. Thank you, Mr. Alex. So yeah, I was already consolidating my English at a time, and suddenly Korean was thrown into the mix, and I really did not know how to reconciliate, make sure to mesh in a way that I was comfortable with, and that conflicted with me a lot. Added puberty-induced hormones, some parental pressure, peer pressure, and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a bad combination. Yeah.
Very bad. I'm surprised it didn't blow over in everyone's faces.
I mean, the way you explain it, it literally blew up in someone's face.
No, well, that's less blown up than me just not understanding social norms
Yeah.
very well and lashing out. If we're talking actual boom boom, that did not happen.
Yeah.
Thankfully, there was that one time I broke my jaw, but that's another story.
You broke your jaw.
Somebody broke my jaw. I gave it back as good as I got, but yeah, it
But I
happened.
just, I didn't, I wouldn't like, I didn't think of you like the as of the violent type.
I was the lashing out type, but more often than not, that resulted in a fight or two.
Oh.
Yeah.
I never expected that.
No, you beat my ass, that's for sure.
No, I never was actually like that. I never had like fist fight or issues like that in school.
That was the thing, because, well, Koreans, ostracism, ostracizing others, bullying others, like, that stuff still is prevalent well, was prevalent when I was that young, around 14 years old. They thought they just, either they didn't like me or they just were not comfortable with the facts, and so they just picked on me a lot. My brother was an unfortunate casualty, and one day just boiled over. I snapped, and well, yeah, stuff happened.
No, but it sounds like very like your personal like events in life seem to influence like your language learning like process negatively. I mean, I have
Yeah.
that in like sometimes I see that too in Korea that like people went abroad and they had like issues with discrimination or something. For
Yeah.
that reason, they like start disliking the entire culture and language itself. You know, and I can perfectly understand that, but yeah, I think you have to differentiate between the language, the people, and only certain like people, and you know, regardless of which country you go, you would meet people like that. But yeah, I think it's unfortunate, but I think I've seen it before. Like,
Fortunately for me, the whole little mess reconciled itself soon enough. So I'm comfortable where I'm at in terms of Korean and English things.
yeah, no, and then also what I remember like learning Korean, what was it wasn't like I learned Korean mostly when I came to Korea, and then
Yeah,
I remember it being like an extreme assault on my senses, like coming to Korea, having to read everything in Korean, like menus,
everything.
directions on my phone, like the kanpan, so like the how do you call it, like boards,
Yeah.
signs outside of restaurants and outside. So yeah, I was just overwhelmed. My brain was like 24/7 running at 100% trying to follow. By now it's not that bad anymore. I can just like unconsciously go through Seoul and I get from A to B without any issues. But when I first came here, that was like a pretty big struggle. And then like buying tickets, or, like doing anything with a machine, or like having to apply for stuff, or
That does give you a lot of incentive to actually learn the language, right? To ensure
yes,
you don't
but
mess up.
it can go both ways. You know, you can like either like it's hard, but you overcome it and you learn the language of that. But you can also give up and just like get in this isolation we mentioned before, and you
Yeah,
just
that's
bubble,
true.
zone out, and yeah.
Fortunately for me, the kind of places I were in allowed no such thing as bubbles.
Yeah, I mean, like you know, considering the like circumstances now, it was maybe not that bad.
Yeah, conscription's a powerful motivator. Yeah,
Yeah.
conscription's a powerful motivator.
Yeah. Oh damn. Yeah. Would you say your like Korean improved a lot when you went to the army?
Oh, definitely, yes, quite so. I consider the Korean me, the guy with this like the guy this I consider the Korean me before army and the Korean me after
Yes.
army as completely different entities
Oh, really?
entirely. Oh yeah, like you would not believe.
Oh damn. What like in what way would you say
Well, for one thing, I can actually speak. I can actually hold several conversations in Korean.
yes?
So I can.
Before that you couldn't.
Oh no! Oh hell no! I could not.
Oh, okay.
Like I was awkward in Korean. Like only a very like a shut-in guy could be.
Oh, but like you said, you learned it from middle school on throughout high school, and then you came to Korea, went to university a little bit, and then went to the army. When you have to learn.
I learned how to speak Korean. Yes,
Yes.
I learned enough to actually know. I learned enough to
Yeah.
ask for directions, hold small conversations,
Yeah.
but never proper blown out dialogue stuff like that. It was only just words, sentences, utterances. Very laconic.
Really?
Very laconic. I only spoke in words, almost never sentences.
Mm.
Only people I could comfortably do that with were my parents, and even then, my sentence structure left a lot to be desired. Army kicked that into overshift very fast.
Yeah.
Either I learned to talk to my superiors correctly, or I was shoveling grass and running laps pretty soon.
Yeah. What about like curses or like?
Oh yeah, those like experienced the qualitative upgrade. Yeah, I can cuss like a sailor in both languages, and nobody
Yeah.
would know.
No, I remember the like you know I learned the pretty like innocent version of Korean
Mhm.
in like by myself and from what I observed from my environment, because everybody like kind of like took care of me linguistically
Mhm.
because I'm a foreigner, so I just like heard what they filtered out from the Korean language for me.
Yeah.
But then I went to a PC bang in Korea, and that was a different world. Like every second word was.
Oh yeah, we can. PC rooms are infamous for profanity.
Yeah, so if you want to learn curses, go to PC bang. I can.
Even better, pick up League of Legends.
Oh,
I guarantee you'll be picking up you'll be picking up and cussing like a sailor. If you play it for at least a month in Korean servers, I guarantee.
Yeah.
We're colorful as a species.
No, but then so this is like the beginning stage. I would say learning like A to B, getting from A to B, like reading like signs outside, and then like learning the absolute necessities you need to survive in Korea. But then if you want to advance a little bit, so you can have the like somewhat fluent conversation with friends or Koreans, for example, when you go eat dinner. What was very helpful for me is what we also mentioned in terms of like learning English is watching YouTube.
Yeah.
And then especially like topics that you're interested in. For me, like again, it was sports and military-ish stuff. So I watched the Korean show called 강철부대.
Oh yeah, that's a good stuff. For people who are not in the know, I'm pretty sure most of our viewers are in the know. That's basically a Korean army show.
Yeah, basically, yeah, it's former like Korean special forces soldiers competing against each other in a TV show, and they do like rope climbing.
They're also ripped.
Yeah, of course, like they're all like good looking and in good shape, and
I was talking about the muscles, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I was referring both to the muscles and their face.
Oh yeah.
No, anyway, so like that's very fun and entertaining, and this is one way I learned Korean, and then like I said, similarly to how I learned English, like following politics, social like trends, and what these kind of things, and then, till this day, watching news is really difficult for me. I understand like I would say at best half, most like more like 30% I would say.
I just don't watch news. Period. Sadly.
No, it depends. I don't watch it because I want to learn English. I also watch because I'm interested in. But yeah. So this is I would say like the step it takes to like upgrade to being able to have fluent conversations. And then this is also a really good one. In Korean, like like prank videos.
Oh yeah.
No, because the situation itself is very like clear why it is funny. But then you can kind of get an idea of Korean humor a little bit, and then also like words and like this fast tiki taka you have a lot of times going on, like this type of conversation. You pick up on that pretty fast too, like watching. I think the YouTube channel was called like 동네 놈들.
Oh, okay. My brother watches a video of them every once so often.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. No, stuff like this. Again, it's like up to your own preference what you watch, but then these things help me a lot. And then because I am now in university, I also work in like Korean hagwons all the time, and then I did the sports, so frequently a few times a week I would be forced to speak to Koreans, and the combination of all of this is I think resulted in like relatively fast improvement of Korean. But the only thing that I'm kind of lacking a lot still is I mean of course I like everywhere and everything, like speaking, writing, listening, everything. But
don't put yourself down too bad.
No, yeah, I mean it really depends on how you measure it or like judge, but writing is still a big issue because like nowadays I don't write anything anymore besides text messages, even in English or German. Of course for university you have to write papers, but then it's very different. Yeah.
I can't necessarily speak a lot about that. I put pen to paper a lot myself.
Yeah.
I am an aspiring writer, FYI. So I am a person that puts pen to paper a lot. But my calligraphy is nothing to actually like gawk at. It's absolutely horrendous. A monkey could write better than a monkey could look at it, and even a monkey could write better than me.
Why do you do it? Like just out of like interest?
Force a habit.
Force a habit. Like,
yeah, force a habit. If I don't, it's to the point. I did the pen to paper, pencil to paper thing for so long that if I don't exactly like physically write down something at least once a day, I'm gonna feel very anxious for some reason.
Oh really?
I guess I've like self-hypnotized myself into that kind of a habit.
For me, it's very different though. Again, like in German education system, you actually write everything by hand too. Like 10-page like exams in high school, like for 3 hours you write everything with your hand. My hand was like cramping at the end.
Yeah.
But once coming to Korea, I don't miss that at all. Like for me, I always was really bad at these kind of things, like writing with the hand. Like my handwriting is terrible, and also typing on a notebook, like anything, like typing on the phone, like these small like hand gestures and motorics was awful for me.
They train dexterity. It's not that bad.
No, of course, like I definitely see the typing and writing something with the hand is very different. Like if I write it with the hand, like I internalize it way more than when I type it or just read it or.
Yeah, that's true.
But again, typing is just a means of writing is just a means of like sorting out my thoughts. Really.
Honestly, I thought though,
Instead,
you think with all the writing, the risks will kind of like accommodate and become thicker, but no, I still got chopsticks for risks.
no, of course not. Like if you want your wrists to actually become thicker, then you have to do like weightlifting.
And also,
And there's also a lot of genetics.
Genetics and things.
Right. Okay. So we talked about learning English, learning Korean, our personal struggles.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Well, for those, never mind.
No.
It was on the tip of my tongue, but I swallowed it.
Okay.
That's the sad part. Yeah.
Spit it out.
I'm trying to, but it's down deep. It's in my esophagus already.
No, I see. No, but I think we covered pretty like
Yeah. Most topics I think we covered
In-
relatively well.
broad detail.
Yeah.
And then if there's anything we missed, we can pick up
Pick up on the next podcast.
right, and then discuss it more detail then. Okay. So,
The
but I
words
think
out
for
my
today,
Yeah. So this concludes our Konglish podcast for today. I hope you enjoyed what you learned and listened, and we will hope to see you again in the next Konglish podcast. This is DK, and
I'm Alex, and
this is the end. Thank you.